We are live. We are live. Congratulations to me. Not that it's that big a deal, but it can be if you're not, when it's new and it's difficult and you don't know what's going on, then it makes it tricky. But we figured it out by now. We figured it out. Hello, hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Send the link as appropriate and share. We're going over the details of the story. We're in part 2 of Ursula the Aspirant. This is the important part for me, very key part, because there's a question. When Ursula said, "I want to be an aspirant," and then there was celebration and encouraging her, and Biella tasked her with being a bridge between the new nobles and the other delegates. This is a big deal that Biella did. She just seized the opportunity to do this. And so there was a bit of discussion on that. Or she asked Ursula, is this something that you're keen to do, would like to do? Yes. And then she teased the delegates a little bit, in particularly the big woman. And that's the big woman's name. She calls herself the big woman, by the way. Just a little point of trivia there. And she teased the big woman a bit to say, but I'm not so sure I want to be a bridge, because you guys are kind of a difficult lot. And, I've seen you in private, remember? And the big woman is like, but you must. And then she realized that, in the excitement, she got a bit carried away there. And she realized Ursula was teasing her a little bit. And at the end of all of this, they went to go and eat to celebrate. And as they were walking towards the eating place to go and celebrate, Ursula says, it's humbling to realize, even though one has had the right of it all our lives, there's a more right out there. Very profound comment. Very, very, very profound comment. This comment for Biella is a perfect summation of what's going on. However, the next day she comes across Camillus in the garden where they're all going to meet, and Camillus is busy thinking this through. He's doing a takeaway, he's going over it, and one of his method for doing so, getting clarity and perspective, is to speak in the third person. And Biella just jumps right in and speaks about Camillus in the way he was. And he's saying, yes, but I don't quite get this, or Camillus doesn't quite get this comment of Ursula's. He understands there's a more right out there, but how is it that one's had the right of it? And he's not quite getting this. Sher-Unbound is coming to join us. Sher-Unbound. Wonderful. And in this not getting it, Biella and Camillus discuss it some. Then they go and join Ursula and Biella's friends, a group of other aspirants. And they busy questioning and, discussing, and they're all excited with Ursula because she's a different and unusual aspirant and not common. So they're eager and excited. And then Camillus and Biella go and join. And then they sort of bring up this topic, this comment of hers that Camillus is struggling with. And Ursula then says, well, let me elaborate. And we give some more context for this, because Camillus says there's some context missing for him. Therefore, Ursula then shares where she was at, what her thinking is, and this is what we're going over. And while we're going overs and all sorts of magical, wonderful things, is Sher. Hello, wonderful Sher. Hello. I'm thrilled here. I need a reader. See, perfect timing.
Oh, where's Miss Bina today?
She was here, and then she said, "Oh, let me reboot," and things were not connecting, and I don't know. Just so I'm assuming her internet went down. It was very slow and sluggish, actually, for me also. Facebook was very slow and sluggish.
Yeah, it's been kind of interesting today.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, once I couldn't access like the big sites like Facebook and eBay and YouTube. So I called up the internet supplier and said, look, I'm paid up, everything's fine. What's wrong here? What's going on? He said, oh, no, Sprint at that time has not paid their bill. And all these big companies get their internet via Sprint. And there's this big pipeline, like you can think of it as an interstate highway, that's only for the big companies. And because Sprint didn't pay the bill, that pipeline is now down. So that's why you don't have access to any of these sites. I thought, wow, that's yeah, that I was like really put a different spin on things, doesn't it? To think that that
It
could
it
be so.
does.
That you know, you a big site like Facebook and eBay and all these places, you vulnerable on some guy paying his bill. It's like, wow, man, you know, that's not very good business strategy.
So you wouldn't think that that would even be possible.
Yeah, well, this was probably, oh gosh, 15 years ago now, maybe more even. So it's been a while. So one would imagine that you know, they're doing a little bit differently now. One would hope at any rate. Also, what the other thing is though, it's like when a highway goes down, you've got to reroute the traffic, right? Now you've got
Yeah.
to use the back roads and side roads and all this. And I suspect this is what happens sometimes. That
Yeah.
you know, the infrastructure's been around for a while now, and some of it just goes down, and then they have to come and then reroute things. And also, there's just this huge increase in traffic, especially since COVID. You know, during COVID, you saw lots of outages, but subsequently, though, and we say, yeah, but you know, COVID, but it changed. It changed society in a very big way. Many people discovered, hey, I don't have to go physically and work at a place. I can work from home, even keeping their same jobs, right? Because COVID forced them to do this. So they just said, well, I'll just keep doing this. Of course, puts more stress on the internet, and of course, many people opening their own businesses and all that. It's very cool,
Yeah.
very cool. I mean, as a
Yeah.
side effect of everything, you know, that we get slow internet sometimes. Yeah. But I mean, I
Yeah.
think though that the overall positive benefit of it, that people are finding that greater independence. This is, I think, a really cool thing. You know, that
Yeah.
people have extra options. I love that. I love that people
Yeah.
have more options. It's a very good thing. Very good thing.
Very good.
Wonderful. How are you, Sher? How are you, Sher?
Good. Just
Ah.
chill. That's all. Just mellow.
That's good. That's good. Chill is good. Chill is good. Yes, we got a
Yeah.
little bit of overcast here, so who knows? We may even get some rain. We were supposed to get a little bit yesterday, but it's ideal weather to chill in. So it's
Oh,
not
okay.
exactly chilly. It's quite hot actually.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm just,
Hot and humid. Hot and humid.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but mood wise, I'm just chill.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. 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 Yeah. Me too. Me too. I had a most productive day yesterday, so I feel chilling is most appropriate today.
yeah.
No, no, I'm very productive. I like being productive. It's pretty good. All right, let's talking about productive. Let's continue what we're doing. Although before I do share, is there anything that is particularly on your mind that is in? Well, it doesn't have to be connected. I'll find a way to connect it. Anything,
Yes,
anything
you
you're
do.
particularly thinking about?
And, no, well, just to carry over from the conversation that you had yesterday,
Yeah,
what you were sharing, as far as like when I dropped in there, that we can recover from our traumatic experiences, through shifting our associations.
exactly,
Um, and
exactly.
so I, of course, in my traditional style, I went ahead and did an article about that I'm still working on,
Wonderful.
just really elaborating on the idea of if we do not need to buy into that belief that we can't heal, that this is never going to change, that we can't get rid of, because like I wrote about, the trauma is not, it's not the actual event. We don't carry that event with us. We carry the memory of it, and we carry the memory of the feelings that we assigned at that moment. And most of those feelings were not by choice. So those feelings were, by and large, initiated in our childhood by our environmental experiences and the influences. So we say we've got a traumatic event that happens again as an adult. We run around blaming ourselves, going, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. No, you did what you needed to do at that time, and now you can shift your beliefs. So that's kind of what I'm focused on is, we always have that, there's always that option, like you were just talking about.
Yes.
We always have an option. There's always another way, even if it's not the traditional route that most people would take, there's always another way.
Yes, yes. And would you say, you said to shift our beliefs?
Yes.
Would you say that adding consciously to that makes a very big difference?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because originally we're unconscious doing, I'm not going to say unconscious. We are not thinking, we're just reacting. We're not responding.
Correct. We're just assimilating and absorbing and
right. And we're just responding in much the same way that we would have as a child.
Well, which is reacting. A child just reacts, really. They don't really respond.
Children don't respond. And as adults, then we can mature and evolve. I love that word, evolve. That was the other thing that I hit on yesterday was you guys were talking about levels, and I didn't quite catch whether or not you were for or against level. I'm neither or. I just don't like using the word.
Well, that's good that you didn't get either or, because I'm not necessarily against it, but it's just a word I try to not use because it's got baggage.
It does. Well, I don't know about baggage for me. To me, it sounds, when I hear of level, I hear comparison. And that's something that I'm working on getting away from is comparison.
Exactly. And
so
also
I like to look for evolve, growth.
And also hierarchy in a negative sense, as in the next level is better and you've got to aspire to it. I see this so often that because of the superiority paradigm, getting to the next level becomes the goal. And you say, but wait a second, Syl, how is that not the goal? Isn't getting to the next level the goal? But listen again, getting to the next level, not acquiring what the next level brings you. That's the actual goal, not getting there. So some just aspire to be there, to have the next belt, for instance, in martial arts, or the next title in your corporate or in your organization or whatever. And that's it. The goal is the status that comes from being there, not the value that that level actually brings. And this is where this whole level deal completely starts to become counterproductive. Zen is a wonderful system. And the intent behind Zen is essentially original Buddhism. It's what Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, right? That we call the Buddha, but he's a Buddha, right? He's not the only one, right? We think of him that, but he's one of many. Anyway, in his, if you look at what he actually says, it's like if you read the New Testament and you look at what Jesus actually says, you get Christianity, which is very different from Christianity. Right? Very big difference. When you look at what Jesus says, not the rest of it, which is written mostly by Paul and others, right? And they came afterwards in any case. Anyway, and so when you look at the same, when you actually look at the quotes from Buddhism, you see this is the idea behind Zen. And this came much later than after the time of Buddhism, actually many centuries later. And nonetheless, it's looking to capture the essential essence of Buddhism. However, by the time it came about, hierarchy and superiority paradigm were rampant. And if you look at Zen Buddhism today, the sort of, organization of it and monasteries and all that, just look up Zen Buddhist titles. And you'll be astonished. It's like a zillion of them. It's amazing. Oh yeah, I mean, you're the this and that master and this, and it's like each time you go a little, it's like you got a new title. You got a new title, And of course, this is next level thinking. This is that you're in it for the title, not necessarily for the fact that
Yeah.
you are now getting accomplishments. And the whole thing sort of falls apart. And what fascinates me is that there's not an awareness in the Zen organization, as such as it is, right? I mean, they've got their masters and this and that, and you can you see them sometimes at conferences giving seminars or workshops or whatever, right? That they don't realize how they are inadvertently promoting a false goal and a false ideal within the structure of the organization. We are so defaulted to the superiority paradigm that we just take it for granted. It's the goal to get to that higher level and to get the title. And this becomes your aim, because that's what ambition is. Ambition is all about just the status, the title. It's not necessarily about the actual value that the situation produces and brings, right? And of course, yes, when you mention it, well, duh, it's that. But it gets lost. It gets lost. And not many realize exactly how easily it gets lost. And why do you have all those titles? I mean, yes, in you might say, yeah, but in the story, don't you have the same thing? You've got aspirants and you've got new nobles. There's no real difference. The difference is, from a technical point of view, you become an employee of the new nobility corporation, and that's why you call the new noble. There's a very practical reason for it, because now you've been accepted into an organization which gives you security, financial benefit, all that, right? But also you now represent an ideal. Yeah, you become a representative. Yeah, because you're now an employee of the corporation. You're also a shareholder of the corporation, but you're also representing an ideal. And as such, there's a profound responsibility on you when you now are officially a new noble, right? You get looked at, you get thought of, and this is part of not only their commercial interest, but also their ideal, their ideology interest, their philosophical interest, their spiritual interest. The two are merged. They have successfully managed to merge that, because how can you not, if you think in impeccability? You have to make best use of everything. And this is an ideal way to do that. You can't separate out your work and your spirituality. The two have to merge together if you're really going all the way, which is part of the new nobility society, right? It's doing things thoroughly, thinking it through to the end, going all the way, being exquisite, looking at moreness. So the two have to be merged together. So there's a very practical reason for calling someone a new. It's not about the status and the ideal of it. And as we see with Biella, that she is tasked with showing the delegates what the new nobility is all about. And yet she's an aspirant. She's technically an aspirant, right? But those, when the administration, there's no ruling of Nobelia. You get called, the computer says it's your turn, you get called up and you're admin for this week or whatever, however long it is, right? And there you sit in the admin office and whatever you need to do. Well, this is something that admin had to do, assign somebody to be there to take care of the delegates, show them around, just be in charge of them, right? And of course, she has powers to delegate others to help her and assist her as she need be, as she does with Ursula. But this is not something that is typically something that would be given to an aspirant. But because Biella is sort of in her own world, and she's a bit different and unusual, and she's been all around the agglomeration, most of the new nobles have, but those that have are typically on planet. So it's rather unusual for an aspirant to have Biella's background. She did a whole long big tour of the whole agglomeration. It's been all over the galaxy before she came to Nobelia. And she was sort of already accepted as a noble even before coming to the planet. She didn't even need to come. But anyway, that's just some backstory. But it's just in the sense that we are saying, Biella is different here, and which is why the story focuses on her. There have been other times in the history of the nobility and that delegates came, but there's a specialness to it. There's a difference to it. There's an unusualness to, as we're going to see later as things unfold, right? And of course, with the gods being involved, they happen to come now and they're focusing on Biella. Again, for all of these reasons, as we'll discover later, it's all part of the grand plan. So there's a big, long mystery story involved. My key point here is that Biella is doing what a new noble would do. And any of the aspirants could really take that, at least her group of friends. Now, maybe some aspirants that are very fresh and new wouldn't be able to, but hers would pretty much do. But still, the difference between her and them is quite substantial. And not in a better or worse way, just simply from an experience, application, practical way. And this is the magic of the society, that they celebrate difference and recognize it and
Yeah.
are honest about it. Well, I've got skills that you don't have. Okay, I'll do it. It's as simple as that. It's like, well, duh. You know, there's no better or worse. It's just I got skills and you don't. You could have them. You might have them. You will have them regardless. Even if you don't, does it matter? No. I sometimes don't necessarily want to make the effort to acquire the skills. I love your art and I enjoy art, but I have absolutely zero interest in acquiring the ability to make art. It's not physically
Yeah.
fun for me to do it.
I was
I
just
got
thinking of that this morning.
I got so many other things to do. Yeah, I'm very keen to see more drawings, and I'm keen to see those new chalk pastels that you got, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, I'm keen to see them. I'm keen to see. I'm keen to see. Your lighting is remarkably black and white.
Is it? Well, it's just my room. That's all.
Yeah, it's just interesting. It just struck me. I mean, I see you wearing color, but the rest is,
Yeah.
typically light gives a color to things, unless you've got neutral lighting, daylight lighting.
Yeah, I think it's
It's
all
just interesting.
daylight. Right.
Oh no,
Yeah,
it's
I
all
think
good.
it's
It's fabulous. It
daylight.
shows your sophistication, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's just
All right.
daylight.
One more point before I start on the sharing, on
Okay.
association management. Yes,
Mhm.
practice this on your hard drive. Go to that hard drive mess of yours. All right, sure. I'm not necessarily speaking only to you. I'm speaking to everybody. That hard drive mess of organization where you got files and folders and everything is here and there. And yes, I know I should have saved those download photos. I should have put them in different folders. And now they're all in my download folder. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. I know lots of people who do this. Now go there and say, well, how do I fix this? Well, okay, the photos, you're now going to make a folder that says, okay, these are inspirational photos, art photos, whatever. I'm making different folders. But these photos, each of them has a number be underneath it. That's all that it says in the name of the photo. How do I know what this means?
Name it.
I have no association to that number. So I have to
Right.
say, this was when, this was about the birthday party. This was about my spiritual epiphany, and this reminded me, whatever. Right? You are changing that title. What is changing that title? Renaming the file, in other words. When
Except
you
for
rename a
association.
file, exactly. It is association management. You are reassociating it instead of with a number, now with a particular significance, memory, idea, understanding, concept, whatever, right? And you can have a
Right.
long title and have many different associations in there. You could have this comma, this comma, this comma. You could have a whole series of them in there. This deliberate reassociation, in other words, this is what I'm talking about. It is sometimes just as simple as renaming a concept.
Yeah,
Like
and when you do that,
like levels,
yeah.
right?
Well,
We
see, and
just
also what
did
I was
that,
thinking too, though, you
right?
talked earlier about unhooking from this paradigm, which
Exactly,
is necessary. However,
exactly.
if we really, what I have learned from myself is just by diving in or just really digging into that idea to the truth that I can unbind from the paradigm and
Yeah,
actually doing it,
yeah,
that has been effectively for me changing the way I see my traumatic past, my experiences.
yes, yes,
So
yes,
that's where the association management
yes,
became so valuable for me, is when I made that connection. Like, whoa, okay, by doing A, I'm getting B.
yes,
It's just working out that way. Can
yeah,
it work that way for everybody?
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. I would hope so. I know it was working
Right.
for me.
Yeah, it's too incredible. Now let's look at this in a little bit more detail here, and go into some nice exquisite refinement, which is the point of the story as part of the Moreness-Project. Yes, exquisiteness. This
Business.
is what we want.
Yes.
Now, if we look at this whole process of renaming, reassociating, because sometimes it's as literally simple as changing the name.
Yes.
Level. Let's change it to, how can we rename this? What about alternative awareness?
That's an interesting one.
Isn't that
Alternative awareness.
exactly? So now let's say Biella and the group, and she says, you know, wow, I feel like I've shifted. I've 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 learned stuff, and I'm connecting to stuff. I'm understanding something. All right, we could say with Ursula, would you say Ursula's at another level now? And I say, yeah, but that implies where she was before was deficient and less than. That doesn't work. No, sorry. All right. Now they're having a discussion about this. They say, what about, Biella says, what about, would you say Ursula is in an alternate awareness to what she had before? Oh, yeah, of course. Well, duh, she's in an
Yeah.
alternate
Okay.
awareness. Now, the alternate awareness is like a duh, but it doesn't
Right.
imply any kind of better or worse. It's just an alternate. Yes, you could say, all right, it's a new awareness. Fine, you could say that too. You could say it's a different awareness. But to say alternate automatically brings in choice.
Mm-hmm.
See, to say
It
new or
does.
different, I can be in a new awareness and I have no choice about it. But an alternate one, at least not necessarily there's choice, but it does imply choice
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
conscious understanding that it is a different awareness. So
Yeah.
Ursula
Yeah.
is very clearly very hyper aware of the difference between where she's at now, awareness, what happened to her awareness. It was really pressed upon when she came to Nobelia in a very awkward and uncomfortable way for her, and she had to resolve this awkwardness, either go back and live a lie or change. That's the end. That's
Right. Right.
the basic of it. So this alternate awareness, though, if we think of this instead of level, now think of the Zen guys. You learn, you learn, you learn, you shift into an alternate awareness. Does it invalidate the awareness that you had before? No, it does not.
Mm-mm.
Ursula's aware, and she says, I realize that you seek, it's part of your culture to
Yep.
have us maximize what we know. And but I'm going to set that aside. And she's very sophisticated on this point. I'm going to set that aside because it's, for me, it's too easy for me to get into that trap of thinking that I know when I
Yes.
clearly do not. So she says,
Right.
you're going to have to wait to tap into my expertise from my old home planet. Well, she doesn't even call it the old home planet anymore. She calls it her old planet because now Nobelia is her old planet. That's how thorough she is on this. It's quite
Right.
fascinating how she does this. Nonetheless, she's saying, I'm going to put all that on hold. And I am in an alternate awareness. My old one
Yes.
is not
Not
invalidated.
better. And that's the other day
Exactly.
when I wrote
Exactly.
about
Right.
my
Right.
old self was I'm not proud of my old self. Remember I showed you that video.
Exactly.
Very proud of
Exactly.
who I was at that point because that's
Exactly.
where I was supposed to
Exactly.
be. That
Exactly.
was my awareness that
Exactly.
was intended at that
Exactly.
time. And it's
Exactly.
grown since then. So
Exactly. And
I like
look,
that alternate.
exactly. And looking back now at that this video that's showing, it's an ad that Sher had made many years ago, right?
Mhm.
And she was a different person then, and you can so clearly see it. I mean, both physically, attitudinally, mindset, attitude, emotionality, the layers in between, right? Buffers, also all sorts of stuff in there. It was fantastic, right?
Mhm.
But like you said, it wasn't a negative space you were in. It
Nope.
was an alternate awareness. You can appreciate who you are then relative to what you knew. You can say,
Yes.
man, this is
Yes.
a lot I can learn from myself, because I mustn't forget that I came to be who I was within the constraints of very limited awareness and understanding. I want to remember the qualities which brought me to that point, which I'm very proud of. Even though
Yes.
if you said, do I want to go be that person today? No, 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 thank you. But those qualities brought me there, and they took me
Right.
further. Because of
Right.
those, I came to be who I am now, which I'm thrilled about. But should it be necessary, and because I'm not saying better and worse, should it be necessary, I can access those very attitudes again, should the
Mhm.
circumstance warrant, right? So
Yeah.
I
Would I
can,
do it again? Absolutely.
exactly, but I can access the value from then and bring it into the now. So there's
Yeah.
no better or worse. It's simply alternate awarenesses, alternate perspectives, alternate realizations, alternative understandings, right?
Yeah.
Alternate. We've got options. And this is what in the new nobility system, it's not levels, but options.
I like that.
And we can
I like
say
that.
having more options is better. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We
Does it
always
make
have the
having
option.
less options a negative? No. Right? Sometimes the universe will only give you one option, and it's the most profoundly wonderful thing. But that's coming from the universe. That's very different. Right? So nonetheless, we understand here. We understand, and this whole idea, better, worse, it doesn't. It's just a I want to say
Different
a
alternate.
weight, and like this clinginess that just bogs you down and makes you a stickiness
Yeah.
that just holds you back. There's no value to it. There's no
Right.
value to it. So to think differently, and that's why I'm saying we changed this to get back to our key point here about reassociation. We changed the terminology, the label. Sometimes it's as simple as replacing the label. Level to alternate awareness. The sophisticated point I wanted to mention is, you can do this, and many people do this, and it's just BS, right? And say,
It's not
well,
sustainable.
right. But if you do it when you're being honest about it, like we said, level, we're going to look for a legitimate alternative, one that we can get behind. Alternative awareness, absolutely. Option, right? We can even go shorter term just to say option. I'm in a new option. I have more choice. That's it. I'm in a new choice environment. Wow. Okay. So when we change level, though, alternative awareness, I really like that as a power term. But we were genuine about it, right? We were legitimate. We weren't looking to just BS ourselves and say, like, for instance, I'm in debt. And now I say, well, I'm just, I don't know, negatively financed or some nonsense, right? I mean, now you're just looking to avoid the issue, and you're just
There
trying
you
to
go.
cover
There's a
up.
big
And
difference.
it's the
There is.
integrity that matters. In other words, but of
Yeah.
course, we discussed this in the context of Biella and the group. Of course, the entire new nobility society is built on way of impeccability. So it's like, they're going to have integrity, and how are you possibly going to aspire to nobility if you don't have integrity? It's just not possible. Right? It's just an impeccability. So this is but it's an implication in this relabeling and reassociation that's absolutely essential to emphasize. You can't just go about relabeling stuff because it happens to convenient, and you essentially denying the nonsense, and you're avoiding and facing and dealing with the awful truth. No, that ain't gonna work.
Right.
You gotta be real. You gotta be real. You gotta be real. So us shifting level to alternative awareness is being very, very, very real, because level has limitations, not the other way around, right? So we are looking to go more, not less. This is very, very important. Very, very important. All right. We cannot always avoid hierarchy, like in better and worse. Some things simply are better than other things, right? It doesn't, but it's better in the context of saying, well, this is the only option, and I have to feel bad about when I don't have it. No. I mean, if I have a better meal than my last one, does that make my other meal invalid? No, I love my other meal. So the new nobility don't go on a bad, neutral, good system. They operate on a good, better, best system, or good, better, wonderful, or good, better, more, or just good, more, or that's it. It's a moreness thing. It's wonderful, and then okay, it's also wonderful. They don't even say more wonderful. It's just you get, I enjoy like I'm gonna have cereal. Oh man, I love cereal. Okay, I had steak. Well, I like steak too. Do I always feel like steak? No. Do I always feel like cereal? No. But whenever I have them, I enjoy them. See, when you change that mindset, you get out of this hierarchy and ranking. And particularly talking about concepts and words and associations, the new nobility avoid the use of the word level, as well as the use of the word favorite. The moment you make something a favorite, you, by contrast and by implication, devalue everything else.
Yeah.
So
I haven't used favorite in I don't know how long. I
it's
don't
wonderful.
have favorites. I don't.
Yeah, exactly. I can't get behind it, and I always love when people are dating. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite movie? And now they think they know somebody because they know their favorites. And I see this online, especially, in chat groups and people getting to know. I say, hey, go look up that favorite movie, that favorite food, that favorite color, and all these favorites, and see which serial killers have those same favorites.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm dating a serial killer. I'm dating a serial killer. You know, the absurdity that you think knowing somebody's favorites is going to reveal who they are. And that's
Yeah.
why I make this joke. It's very funny, but it's also very tragic. And it's also very
Yeah.
true. You know, they
Yeah.
have similar favorites, but they're a serial killer. It tells you nothing, people. It tells you nothing. That's why you end up in divorce and tragedy. You know, it's because you don't really get to know the actual real person. Yeah, find out what really matters to them, what they make effort about, what their intents in life are, you know, where they spend their energy. Then you are going to see, yes. I mean, somebody
Yeah.
spending all their energy at self-importance,
Mm.
that's a big clue. That's a big clue. Now, sometimes people can spend all their energies on disguise, right? And they can be extremely skilled at disguise.
Hmm.
And we don't see it. If you look, you can look this up, and I recommend you do. It's a very profound thing to look up videos of inside ant colonies. Right, to take micro cameras and they put like
Yeah.
special
Yeah.
lighting. Right now, when you've seen those, yes, and you see all these other
Mm-hmm.
creatures that live inside the ant colony that aren't ants, yes,
Hmm.
right? And it's like, but you say, but I come, and the ants just like they go past them, and if you watch ants, whenever they pass, so they kind of greet each other, right? And they go, well, they're not. What they're doing when they stop, they're walking like this, and they have that little brief contact, and they move on. What they're doing is exchanging scent,
Yeah.
right? So those creatures get to live inside the ant colony, basically sponging off the ants. That's what they're doing, right? But what
Yeah.
they've done though is they've discovered the trick. They mimic the scent. So to the ants, they smell like ants.
Oh, we do.
Even though you look nothing like an ant, you're this big bug, a big worm, or whatever you are, right? Uh,
Yeah.
those creatures are like wildly different to ants. I mean, they're not in the same league at all, but they smell like ants, and that's how they get by. Now, people can sometimes do the same thing, right? They can be very different, but to your sense of where their intent is, they've learned to mimic the appropriate intents, right? So they become very good at disguise. Yes. Now, most BMNs aren't very good at it, but there are exceptions. Yes. People
Yeah.
are
There's a
that
few.
that that their entire lives are about disguise. Now, the the
Yeah.
the, the BMNs, they're about their focus is about pushing and being in the eye and all this, right? But sometimes people just want to be mellow and they don't want to be revealed for being a not ant. But they don't realize it's not necessarily a negative, right? But they don't want to be
Yeah.
revealed. So I'm just saying, just pay attention. Just be
Yeah.
cautious. Right? When interacting in the sense that we're looking to interact differently and perceive differently and understand what's going on. All
And
right,
that's
let's
a
go.
good point to make,
Yeah,
especially, I mean, if you wanted to use an alternate word
right.
for an ant, you could always just, in modern times, you could say influencer.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
Mhm.
You're equating ant with influencer, not the queen ant.
No, 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 not that. Well, no, I'm just thinking, like the workers. There's a lot of people who are striving to be influencers online
Yeah,
who are unfortunately their intent for what they're doing
yeah.
is
It's re-
deceitful.
Yeah, yeah. And really, those that do make a difference are the ants. Ants make an incredible difference. Ants are
Oh,
quite
that's
profound.
true. That's true.
Right.
That's true.
So the
Yeah.
real influences are the ants. They're the
Yeah.
ones
Okay.
that come and clean up your mess that you made.
Yeah. There you go.
I think ants have a philosophy, and ants are they have a deep integrity to them.
They're
Think about
smart.
it. Well, think about it, right? I mean, you can have an open sugar bowl. The ants will walk across the sugar bowl, but they don't carry off your sugar
No.
because, but have it all sticky in a mess that's lying on your counter that you cannot use. This they carry away for you.
Yeah.
So basically, they're cleaning up your messes for you, and they don't attack your dry goods. The
No.
way rats would, right? I mean, a rat will
Right.
gobble up your sugar, right? But ants don't.
Mhm.
They are very considerate in what they do. If you pay attention to them, you'll see this. It's
They're
really, really
thrifty.
profound to me. Not only thrifty, but they're basically saying, well, you obviously don't need this or use this. You have no value for it. and you've been sloppy. All right, and we're going to clean up your sloppiness, your mess for you. It's quite something. It's quite something. Right.
That is.
I mean, and same thing with fruit. You know, you have a bowl of fruit. They don't take the healthy fruit, only the rotten fruit.
Yeah.
See, I mean, how is this not awesome? How does this not bespeak a particular awareness?
That's a big
Yeah,
point. Yeah.
it's really something. It's really something. I have a story. It's called Jody and the Ants. And this employee, Jody, you put his arm on the counter. They would stand for hours on end until a customer came. Now it was a sword and knife shop, right? He was really into swords and knives, so he was very good with the customers. But other than that, he did absolutely nothing. Just put his elbow on the counter and his head on it, and he would stand. Anyway, so Jody one day says, he comes and he tells the story of the ants. And he says, oh man, I had this whole string of ants and they were coming into my thing, and I took some clear lacquer and I sprayed the line of ants, coming into the house or the kitchen or wherever. I just sprayed it. And he says, but it didn't stop them. I came back the next day and there they were walking on top of this whole trail of ants that you could see through the lacquer underneath. They could see all the dead ants. I sprayed them again. And this has been going on for a week. Every time I spray, they come back again. But in my story, we now go into the ant colony. And yes, the ant general, and he's saying, what the hell is up with this goddamn Jody? Doesn't he see us trying again, even though he sprayed us, that this is obviously important to us? I mean, it's like, how stupid are you? Can't you? Because that was his point, Jody. How stupid are the ants? And yeah, the general's what, how stupid is Jody? He sees we coming back. You spray us, we still come back. And yes, we are walking on our dead comrades over there. And still we come. So this must really be important to us. Can't you see this? Can't you figure this out? Perspective. Who's the stupid one, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's like, never mind just the sort of wanton cruelty of it, All right. I mean, I understand we're going to deal with ants, but the best way to deal with ants is not to leave stuff that they don't want or that they want. And then you don't, you don't have an ant issue because you keep your place, you personally, right? You don't have an ant issue because you keep your place spotless. So
right.
There's no food for them. There's no reason for them to come there. You could have an ant colony right outside your front door and they wouldn't come there. I mean, they'd come and investigate. You'd see the lone one every now and then, but that's it,
Yeah.
Once they know there's nothing there, the scouts go elsewhere, So ants are very smart. Now, there's a really, while I'm on this topic, a really powerful book. It's called Soul of the White Ant. And the author's name is Stuart Clutie, Cloete. It's pronounced Clutie, Stuart Clutie. And he wrote, he studied the ants, the termites, actually, the white ants, termites. And what he did was he put a steel sheet through the middle of a termite hill, because there's big ones where he was. And while they were busy building it. And he says, doesn't matter that he put the steel plate. The termites still grew. Right?
Yeah.
It still grew. They built the termite on either side of the plate the same. How did they know this? Now, how do you do this? How do you figure this out? Exactly. And nobody still to this day has no idea. And to this day, right? And this was, I think, in the 1920s that he did this, or 30s, right?
Probably just in their DNA somehow.
Right. They still don't know exactly how the queen ant communicates with the workers. I don't know, because that was the only way it could have been done. There's a central authority at giving the orders, and it doesn't matter the steel plates. You there, it doesn't matter. So he did many experiments like this, and he also wrote another book, Soul of the White Ape, which is just as fascinating. Really, really, really interesting works of looking at things like we were saying, exploring, using imagination to pay attention to problems that we don't know that we have. Yes. And as part of that same psychology, all right, he wasn't looking necessarily at problems, but he was investigating and thinking and raising questions of alternatives. And since we're on alternative awareness, his books are very much about alternative awareness, and though he doesn't use the term. It's very helpful, very good reading. I think somebody made a post in group about books you'd recommend reading. I said, yes, we're doing one in the live every day. Very highly
Yeah,
recommended
yeah.
reading. But here's some more for you. You know, brilliant, brilliant. All right,
Nice.
let's go and do some discernments. Yeah, it's wonderful
Okay.
stuff. It's wonderful stuff. It's wonderful stuff. And let me drag this window smaller. Right. There we go. Now I can see the comments and we can share. So where were we yesterday? Bina was reading. Oh, I have to finish Nintu's story. Dang it, I keep forgetting. It's finished in my mind, you see. That's why I
Yeah.
haven't finished it.
Yeah. That's kind
Here
of
we
like
go.
me. My book is finished, but you haven't finished writing it out
Yeah,
yet. So I'm getting there.
yeah, yeah. All right. So Ursula says, I knew also I could deliver and provide whatever it was. I knew this. That's no small thing. I knew also what overconfidence and false confidence could do. That's what made me successful in politics. I started late and I'm already in line to be leader. This knowing is a big deal. It's hard to emphasize precisely how much difference it makes. The knowing that you know what's going on in your particular field. All right. If you'd read,
Mhm.
please, sure, that would be most wonderful. Can you see?
Okay. Yeah, I can. I felt as if I understood my world. Indeed, I do understand it.
Hmm.
There lies the crux of it. I really do. My world is not yet in the agglomeration. I'm in the first contact vanguard. So what I say and my world has to be viewed within that context. On my world, I'm not only right about most things, but because of that, combined with all my success, I have the right of it also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ursula paused, gathering the momentum for her closing. But, she emphasized, but coming here, meeting Biella, seeing this world, this system, made me acutely aware there is much, much more to life. There are higher goals, aspirations, which actually make a difference to me, to how I am, to my beingness. I felt like a child listening to Biella, extremely difficult for me at first. I wanted to say things to bolster my ego, even though it was never a big deal to me, as it is to others. It's nonetheless still a part of me. Ursula let her energies resurge.
Ah, well, so much nuance in here, right?
Mm-hmm. I really like that line about
Which one?
meeting Biella, where she was talking about how it was, she felt like a child listening to Biella, and it was
Exactly.
extremely difficult for her at first,
Yeah.
but and she had to shift her thinking. She had
At
to shift,
first.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
at
that's the
first.
difference between Ursula and so many others, is that at first she refused to say, well, let that ego dominate and change her reality, because she realized if she had, she'd have to live a lie.
Yes,
And this is the magic of Ursula, her fundamental honesty. It would not
right,
allow her to live that lie.
right.
There's one thing about, in
Or
the
to be
game.
arrogant.
Exactly. And that would be arrogant to
Mhm.
assume that, wow, you come into some moreness and now you want to pull that moreness down, or say, well, it's not really so much moreness, because if I acknowledge it as moreness, what I know becomes a lessness.
Yes,
Comparative thinking. What you
but
know is what you know. Acknowledge
it,
there's more. It's just ego that's getting all bent out of shape. But when you
right.
shift it, how do you not get overjoyed and eager and enthusiastic when you come into contact with the more that makes what your little bubble, all right, well, wow, seriously, man, I'm just thrilled at this. This to me is like the biggest thrill ever. I remember when I was a kid and like the electrician would come around, right? And he would fix whatever. And I'd say, what are you doing? How does it work? I wanted to know, because to me, his world represented a moreness that I knew nothing about. So I every single person who came there who had any sort of skill or expertise, I would grill the hell out of them to find out what's going on.
Right.
Because I'm enlarging my world. I'm enlarging my world. If you
It also
don't
takes a
do that,
bit of
okay,
humility as well.
exactly.
You have to be
Exactly.
humble about this. And I don't like to usually use that word have to be or must, but I
Yeah.
really do believe that humility is a big part of this. And if it
It's
weren't for
critical.
her, yeah, if it weren't for her humility, she would not have been able to, I think, admit any of this.
Exactly. It's a fundamental humility, which
Yeah,
doesn't mean that we have to self-deprecate.
no, no.
When Michael Jordan says, I'm a good basketball player, he's been humble.
He's being respectful to himself as well. He's giving himself
Precisely.
that due respect.
Precisely. But it's just like his attitude is one of humility. It's just acknowledging a fact. Right?
Right.
He still understands relative to the universe. I'm still a pimple. It's like, yeah, so what? I can play basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you think of it in the bigger context, yeah, so what? You know, a big deal.
Yeah.
That sentence there, on my world, I'm not only right about most things, but because of that, combined with all my success, I have the right of it also. Now,
Right. We were referring back to there's a more right.
right. But this is what Camellia struggled with. How does she have the right of it? Well, simply because she knows what's going on.
Yes.
She's
Aware.
competent, aware, efficient, effective, understanding, knowledgeable in the bubble that she's in. Right? And that's why she says, in my sphere, I had the right of it.
Right.
Now, in the next chapter, the other aspirants, the group, and Biella, they're really going to dissect this a little more now that Ursula shared. And we're going to really get some real deep insights into this and just it's thinking of how to discern, in other words. It's a nice example of discernment in action.
Right. This line here too, then this, go back just real quick, just one, right here, that there are, okay, coming here, meeting Biella, seeing this world, this system, made me acutely aware there is much, much more to life. That's where I was the other day. Being able to, I don't know, I kind of feel sometimes like, you know how when your photographs, anything, the algorithm will show you, oh, hey, remember this? And that's where I came up with that video from 2019.
Wow. It showed you as a memory. I got you.
It did, and it just really kind of struck me. It's like, I really don't not like that person. I just know that, you know, she's different, and she also knew at that time that there had to have been more, and there was. And so I've been pursuing actively more. So I just didn't know that I was until recently.
Yeah.
So
I'll share
anyway.
something that you may not suspect, and may be a not assumed reaction to that video. My reaction to the you on that video was one of loving you more. I could only love the you on that video. That's my reaction to it. Brings a feeling of loving you, loving a person.
Yeah.
Right? That's now when you think of that, when you know what the video is, it's not a typical reaction one would assume, yes?
Right.
But you understand why. You understand why, because of this making an effort to look at the moreness to see what's really there. How can you not, how can you really look, see, hear Sher then, that particular Sher then, and not love her?
Yeah.
How? Explain to me how you cannot love her.
That's true. See, and I used to, you know me, I used to not. Or I believed I did not.
Right.
I must have always at some point, at some whatever, you know, point in my life. I must have. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it as far as I did. So
Exactly. Now, note well, I said to love her. Instead, made me love you of now more.
right, to love her.
It was about that was the feeling, to love her. Then change
Mhm.
how I love you now. That's you know, it doesn't
Yeah.
really affect it. It's just about loving her.
Yeah, yeah, and
Makes me
appreciation.
know you more, understand you more, yes, appreciate you more, yes, but it doesn't change that, right? Yeah.
Right.
So a simple thing, but it's a big point that I didn't make when we watched the video. It kind of came to me now as we were talking about this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just
But I do appreciate
how
all
things
these.
come.
Yeah, I
How
like
things
all
come.
these shifts that are happening slowly. And that's like
Yes.
this morning
Yes.
in group, I posted, by the way, that there is a reason that the tortoise won the race, because fast is not sustainable. It's
Exactly.
just not.
Exactly. Neither is arrogance.
Nope. None of it is. None of it is. So
Persistence
to
and
me,
determination, energy
yes,
management. Yeah,
impeccability is what's sustainable.
exactly.
Impeccability is sustainable
Because it's the best use of energy.
of energy. Yeah,
The rabbit could have
exactly.
won the race, obviously, or the hare.
Yeah,
It's a hare, not the
yeah.
rabbit's a hare.
Okay.
It could obviously have won the race, but it didn't, because it didn't manage its attitudinal energy well.
Right.
Its psychology was not managed well, and it ended up being ridiculously wasteful. Yeah,
Yeah,
arrogance
absolutely.
is ridiculously wasteful and very energy consuming. Yeah,
Answer humble. You can go back to that. Answer a very humble creature.
exactly,
So we can learn a lot from an ant.
exactly. And also, ants practice collaboration.
Oh, yes, they do. Collaboration, community, communication, all of
Right.
it.
Right.
They do. Fascinating. We'll have to do a
And,
study
and
of
and so
ants.
awesome, and so awesome. Read that book if you can find it. Soul of the White Ant. I'm sure just that title. I don't think there's a, even if you don't remember the author's name. Soul of the
Oh,
White
of the
Ant.
white ant. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to.
Stuart Clute, Cloete. Stuart. That's Stuart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
I
Stuart
forget that
Little.
there's right. I forget you can spell Stuart the other way.
Yeah, like Stuart. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's read.
Brilliant. I love this. There's so much more in here.
Okay. I fully understand how to play the game of personal power politics.
Yeah.
In that game, you can never let a competitor automatically have the superior ground. To do that is to lose leverage. One can strategically cede position due to some temporary acquisition or situation, but never on the personal level. This I understood so well. I have to read that again. To do that is to lose leverage. One can strategically cede position due to some temporary acquisition or situation, but never on a personal level. This I understood so well. My strength and success is directly related to my ability to project and maintain a presence of superiority. Oh,
Yeah. All right. So in
oh,
that game,
oh.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
Share.
that it's just really struck me. My strength, CJ, thanks. Stop. My strength and success is directly related to my ability to project and maintain a presence of superiority.
Right. Now this is within the context of personal power politics. Well, you
Right.
can say it's PPP, right? PP, and there's a nuance there. That's why I like
Okay.
that and use
Yeah.
it. It's nonsense. But if you understand the game, though, it's about applying strategy here, and she's being very sophisticatedly strategic. So think of it in our political context here. You're a member of Congress. or in the Senate, and you got the majority leader, you may temporarily now, but you're on the path to being president. You may align with the House majority leader, who is technically your superior, but you aligning with them so that you can have an opportunity to show who you are. But personally, in your personal interactions, you the one who is the superior, not them, right? If you go back and watch Obama when he was a senator, you can see this in action.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
Wow.
it's not that he was necessarily looking to be dominant. He was just so different, and he knew it, and he was aware of it, that he automatically got others to see to him, hey, you got the Moreness, you do it, you go. They kind of
Okay.
pushed him into that presidential position, right? Because
Mhm.
he had a deeper awareness, a deeper understanding, and he had a deeper conscience and an integrity and a bigger view and a vision and all sorts of things, a moreness that emanated from him. But he never, even though he would, say, I'm joining your project, whatever it is, he's acknowledging that this temporarily, right, seed position, right, I'm part of your thing, whatever it is, but never
Mhm.
on the personal level. He never ever said that you know more than me on this simply because you are what you are, right, which is what
Right.
many
Right.
do. No, you have to prove that your position is better. And since they didn't have the same vision and awareness and understanding, that didn't happen, right? Because he did see this thing from the bigger position. Somebody said about working with Obama, and it was a positive comment. He said he always insisted that he was right about what he was until you could prove him wrong. Yeah.
That's
Which,
interesting.
yeah, which makes sense because he's thought it through to the end. Of course, you're going to insist. I mean, how can I'll never be doing, and you do the same thing, and I would do the same thing. It's very important. I'm going to insist what I'm saying is it makes sense, is sensible, etc. Why? Because I've spent a lot of energy getting there. Now, of course, I'm not going to
Yeah.
say that it's
Yeah.
absolute, and I'd love you to demonstrate for me how it's not so, because then I'll update and upgrade. But don't come and tell me my operating system needs an upgrade and not show where and how. You have to demonstrate, right? My operating
Right.
system is working
Okay.
wonderfully. I've made every effort to keep my operating system updated and aligned and attuned, and all that's it. So my operating system is operating at maximum as far as I know. How can I not insist on this? Yeah,
Okay.
you see, you have
Yes. And
to.
now
You have to
now
insist
that
on it.
line, but see, now that
Exactly.
line makes more sense. My strength and success is directly related to my ability to project and maintain a presence of superiority, even though it's not a haughty
Exactly. Right. Now, in the
superiority.
context that she was in, she
Yeah.
was, superiority, like
Right.
Obama.
Right.
He didn't, but Obama's a really interesting aspect, because you could say he's kind of like a
Right.
prototype new noble in a way. He could be an Ursula, because he's not direct, he's not interested in superiority for its own sake. He knows how to play that game, but for the purposes of getting to his goals, not like others who do it for the purposes of having superiority, right? It's simply a
Right.
tool that he's forced to use. But he's getting his superiority from being more sensible, from having greater sobriety. This is what sets
Right.
Obama
Okay.
apart. It's his
Yeah.
sobriety, yes?
Sobriety.
And in that
Yes.
sobriety, people equate his sobriety with superiority, and okay, you got to be president. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's remarkable with Obama is not only that he was the first black president, but that he came from a first-term senator. He didn't even finish his first term.
Okay. I did not know that.
He didn't even finish his first term. Right, exactly. He started running for president midway through his first term. He was such a
Okay.
sensation because of the sobriety and awareness and understanding of how the game is work. Obama is
Right.
a genius at cool, even though
Yeah.
he's a
Yeah.
nerd and he's an intellectual. He can do both. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
He understands this in the same way as Ursula understands this game, right? That
But
leveraging.
then I
Go
was
ahead,
going to say, and I think what you just did is you completely covered. I'm going to finish reading this because you just
please.
described the rest of everything that's going on. Okay. I knew how to maintain the perception that I had something like you were just talking about. of
Obama
course,
had.
these,
I mean, you look at
yeah.
Obama back then, you could see this. He had something exactly.
Well, and so there's, I'm just thinking movie
Yeah.
stars right now too, though.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is Katharine Hepburn.
Exactly.
She had a very big something.
Had something. Yes.
Yeah. So okay. So, anyways, of course,
Yeah.
these are facts.
And so on that point of Katharine Hepburn,
Mhm.
Audrey Hepburn, which is basically sort of, you can't go very much further as being different types of personalities. Now, they're not related, by the
Right.
way.
No,
Right?
they're not. They're not.
This was fascinating to me when I did discover they are not related. But what's magical is they both have something, and that something is vastly different.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yes.
But you can clearly
However, I
see when we
think,
say have something, in that contrast, you can see what it is that something
yeah.
means.
Well, and that something is their very specific moreness.
Exactly.
Katharine Hepburn's was
Exactly.
her drive, her compassion, her wit,
Yes.
her intelligence.
Yes.
Very,
And
very,
the
very smart
insistence.
woman.
Right. And what makes Catherine is not that she was smart, but that she insisted that she was, and insisted on showing it
Yes.
and not
Yes.
hiding it.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
She was definitely very aware that women were played down
Yes.
to and demeaned. She
Yeah.
insisted on not being treated
Exactly.
that way.
She said to hell with that. No.
Yeah.
No, I will not stand for this. Yeah.
Yep. She was a very self-made woman. I admire her so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And
okay,
Audrey
so
as well.
yeah, I have not done a lot of studying about Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
I think just mostly because everybody saw her as a, well, unfortunately, a sex symbol, even though that's not quite true. But
Right. Exactly.
it
Exactly.
was,
Now,
yeah.
yeah.
But see, and then
Audrey is.
Catherine,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
I was gonna say, and the difference to me, anyways, is one was celebrated for beauty, the other one was celebrated for her, well, geekiness, kind of like Obama was, that presence.
Right.
She had that
Right.
commanded a sense of presence.
Right.
So anyway, yeah.
Right. I mean, with Audrey though, her beauty got in the way, but she
Yeah.
used it as a tool, whereas
Yeah.
Catherine used her assertiveness, her aggressiveness,
Yes.
her insistence.
She made that work for her.
She used that as her primary tool. But then if you look a little closer at Audrey, she also uses gentleness and kindness as a profound tool. And I think she went on to be like a United Nations ambassador to the world, something like that.
She did.
I mean, she did a lot of good in the world. Yeah.
Do you remember the movie The Rainmaker that Katharine Hepburn starred in?
No, not specifically.
Okay. If you ever get a chance to watch that movie, Lizzie is her name in that movie. She's the character Lizzie. It very much, to me anyways, reflects a lot of her real personality. The character does, her real life, her philosophies. Just the whole movie does. It was just phenomenal. It was, to me, it was one of her better films.
I think that her movies were either she was cast or chosen, or a combination, to reflect that. I mean, the famous movies with a co-star, and I don't like him at all. I think he's a jackass. That they did a bunch of movies together.
Tracy, what was his name? Tracy what?
Tracy somebody or somebody Tracy.
Yes, I know, and I can see his face, but I just didn't.
Me too. Like me too. Yeah. And they were married for a while in real life. Right?
You know, she was also married to Hugh who was that really wealthy, rich recluse?
Oh, right. Howard Hughes.
Yep.
Yes.
She took care of him.
That is quite tremendous, actually.
Yeah.
And
she took care of him.
Yeah. There's a lot of moreness in that relationship that few realize. They just think, oh, no, there's a lot more there, a lot more going on. But anyway, that the movies that they did together, her and the jackass husband, you could see this was reflecting the real life, where he was looking with a macho, misogynistic nonsense, and she was saying no, and she would have none of it, and that's what led to obviously their lack of relationship. Right. Even though there was passion there, he couldn't get past that. He wouldn't accept her as a person. No,
Yes.
he couldn't break free from that mold. And you see it so clearly in the movies. It's fascinating.
I'm going to read the rest of the slide, and then we probably
Yeah,
ought to
please.
say hello to people.
Oh,
I don't see a lot
oh,
of comments,
oh,
but just
oh,
say hello.
oh,
I know
oh,
we've been
oh,
so busy
absolutely.
talking.
Ramsey's here. Oh,
Okay.
we'll pause. We'll say
Yes.
hello, Ramsey,
Okay.
and we have Timeline Sherpa. Ah, Christine, I'm thrilled you here. Yes, please comment, please share. You know, I'm sorry we got so involved in our conversation. We neglecting you there. Sorry. I
I was
love
going
it.
to
I love
say,
it.
I need to tell people that we tend to do this. You and I kind of tend to ramble, and we conversation hop a lot.
Oh no, not rambling. Going into
Not
depth, any
rambling.
details,
We
not
do.
rambling.
We do.
Yeah. It's very
So
specific.
yeah,
I love it. I love it that Christine is here. You see Christine posts videos regularly, you know, and
yes.
so I love that you're here, and I want to hear from you guys. You know, Ramsey, I see Ramsey regularly. Ramsey already knows. So hello, Ramsey. Good morning to you, Ramsey, and good mornings to you as well, Christine. I love it that you guys are here, and I love your comments, as Ramsey knows. So I'm keen to hear your commentary on what we're talking about. We're going into real nuanced detail, which is what the point of this capital R reading is. It's to explore what lies between. It's not just about reading the story. No, it's about reading the moreness that's underlying it, that it connects to, etc. And this is
and like we're doing, it helps me to be able to connect to real life examples, so that I can apply these concepts and the conceptions that we come up with, that we name, to my life, because I don't know, it just helps. It helps me a lot.
Exactly.
So,
And also, sure, we are practicing the skill of discernment.
Practicing the skill of discernment. This is true.
The skill of it, right? And like any other skill, it comes about through practice. You have to just do it. And now you train your brain, and in this, what we're doing, we're training our brain to look at the world differently. Because we're doing this in the abstract. It's not just the story now, it's in general. Yes?
Yes, training the brain to look at the world differently. I'm going to have to say this. I feel like it's one of the most important things to do, because right now, if you want to look at it through a lens of reality, take off the colored glasses or whatever color you wear. When you take them off, things look kind of grim.
Exactly.
And it's not that I try to avoid reality, but I feel like it's important to make that reality just a little bit more sufferable. Because otherwise, wow, we would all be stuck and mired in depression. We don't want that. The idea is to improve, is to develop, evolve.
Right. And to unhook from a really deep, flawed, assumptive, associative understanding, awareness that we grow up with, that we just absorb and acquire. And that is that the moreness comes to us from outside. Moreness is given to us. Yeah. And also, it's like, well, moreness is the equivalent of a present. It's given to you. Yeah. And there it is. It's right there. It's handed to you. That's what we grow up with thinking moreness is.
Oh, I was going to say, it's like you lost me there for a second. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Right.
However, we grow up with that thinking, but it's not.
Exactly. Now, in Way of Impeccability, as you know, there's a whole session on, specifically, it's called insisting on extracting the moreness. Two profound different concepts that are associated with moreness. So from a Way of Impeccability point of view, and obviously for the new nobility, you know, for Biella, of course, and the aspirants and everyone else, when they talk about moreness, they don't just say, oh, moreness is like a present. No. Yes, you get presents, and that's moreness. That's great. That's wonderful. We get gifts all the time. However, for the most part, we see stuff, and it's like, well, it's pretty boring. And, you know, it's like that spilled coffee that's lying on the counter, and the ants come and clean it up because you got sugar on it, right? The ants are insisting on extracting moreness from that spill. See? Now, we can do this with life, where we see things that aren't so pleasant. We can be the ants in life. and see, oh, here's a mess. Oh, wow, but there's opportunity. Yeah, or it's not so fun. It's not, there's many. And what we're doing here is insisting on extracting the more. That's what a capital R reading is.
Well, we're
And I can do it with
repurposing.
exactly. And it doesn't matter. We can do it anything. Ramsey or
We're
Christine,
repurposing.
if you've got something that you want me to do a capital R reading on, an article or something, share it. I'll be more than happy to do it. It'll be great fun. Sher and I will do it
Yeah.
together. And you'll be surprised how much more is in your story that you may not have necessarily put there deliberately, or you may be surprised that somebody's actually seeing the fullness of your story, or they're seeing things that you had no intention of them seeing.
That
Either
happens
way.
to me all the time.
Yeah. So I'd love to do that, and we're still gonna. Ramsey hasn't been on; has been busy, but I'm waiting for Ramsey to come at the beginning of a session, and we're gonna go into doing capital R reading on some. He's gonna pick a random page from his book, and we're gonna read it.
Nice, nice. Well, I look forward to that. So one
That's what
has
it.
to project.
Oh, good.
Okay, I was gonna say
Go
one
ahead. Go
has
ahead.
to project and continually maintain an air of success.
Yeah.
That air has to have a train to it. One others feel they can latch on to, and therein, by association, follow you along to success of their own.
Yeah.
Their interpersonal relationship to others is vital.
Yeah. Now it's interesting. You can really see this in Obama. Now, I only got to be aware of Obama because at the time I was very involved in lots of other things and I wasn't paying attention to politics at all when I was writing this. And so only later on did I do, and then I looked backwards a bit at Obama, and you can see this. I mean, you would have been a good example to use, but he wasn't. It's after the fact. That's why you use him as a good exemplification of an Ursula. That's just really ideal.
Yeah.
When you look at the person, the man, forget about the politics here. It's not about the politics. I'm talking about him as an individual, as a person, and how they do this. Yeah. Reagan had many similar abilities.
He did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always admired him as well. There are very few of our presidents that I've admired.
Exactly. I mean, he understood how to play that game without sacrificing his integrity. Now, did he have a bunch of really ridiculous policies? Did he have some peculiar beliefs? Yes, absolutely. But that didn't mean that he didn't have a peculiar, he had integrity to a certain extent, right?
Yes,
but still, that he made that effort to share the sobriety. And that sobriety is what made others. And he understood this whole game, that he didn't have to play the game, but yet he was playing the game. So he was very skilled at it. Very skilled at it. Yeah.
Okay, so
a different
era
as well. Yeah, go ahead.
Ursula looked at Biella. It's something I was very adept at. That is, until I met Biella, I was stumped. Not only did I feel like an ignoramus, but anything I wanted to say, which came up guided by my usual sense of interpersonal dominance, was so obviously silly when interacting with her. Oh God, I felt like that. I don't know how many times.
now, I want to stop there a second. I want to stop there a second. And how did you deal with this? And the reason I'm asking this is because many come and see and touch on these lives, and they don't come back. And I know there's lots of value here, and I'm not being arrogant. It's just right? So why? And I feel it's because of this point here now, the point that you said, that I felt like an ignoramus, and I couldn't say my normal things that would obviously be silly. So I think that some don't come and interact and be here because they don't know how to overcome this particular barrier.
Yes. The only thing I can say that I had to insist that I can understand any of the language that you use, and this is not just about you. I mean, Bina has a very deep and delicate sophistication to her that I really had to lean in and listen closely so that I can understand. It's not that she's not understandable. it's my insistence that I am the one who just can't possibly understand or grasp an idea when I know I can, given enough time, given myself enough time. So why do the other people not come back? Maybe because they feel like, oh, this isn't something I could possibly ever understand. Because let me give you a quick example. The very first session ever of Way-of-Impeccability that I took, Marvin was with me in the class on the call, right? And I felt so uneducated. I mean, you were putting all this information out there, and we were taking notes, and I was trying to write and keep up as rapidly as I could, and nothing was computing, nothing was making sense. And at the end of the call, I just thought, wow, that was really, really important and valuable stuff. But now I'm going to have to go and get my dictionary and look up 99% of this because I had no idea. But then I learned later on that the definitions that I did take the time to look up, they didn't apply.
Exactly. There's more to it.
None of it applied. There was so much more to it that none of it applied. And so as we went, I started to relax. The more sessions I had, the more I started to relax, because it was about what my interpretation was.
My interpretation. And that interpretation isn't just a careless one, like, oh, whatever I think. No, my end interpretation, which is a constructed understanding, right, from thinking it through to the end and perspective shifting to multiple perspectives. You came to construct a valid, solid, thoughtful, deep understanding of those terms.
Yes.
How much more powerful is that than if I just said, oh, this is what it means?
Right. I mean, and it made so much more sense. That's why, like when I first started my Dictionary of Power, I started it and I left it. But then I went back to it a year later, literally almost a year to date. It took me a year to go back and see. My Dictionary of Power is very much like this garden right here. There's so many different things, and everything connects and everything flows and it goes together beautifully.
Yes.
That's
why I moved the text.
I was going to say it's kind of like a plan, but it's a plan that I create, not that you created.
Exactly. It has to be you. It cannot be me. That's why I refuse this label of teacher, because when I'm a teacher, then it's coming from me. No. Yes, you can teach, but
I stay and I stay away from coach, and I stay away from all of those things. Just mostly because of the titles, they don't seem to fit. I really loved it when you told me that you liked the term elucidator, because that fits.
Exactly. That's what I do. I elucidate. And part of elucidation is sometimes making the obvious obvious. It's like, well, but it wasn't obvious before it became obvious. It wasn't obvious until it was obvious. That second when you made the jump, in that moment before, if we go back in time, you're like, oh, it was like no clue. It was just not in your awareness. But the moment it got mentioned, oh, well, duh. Yeah. So it's just, that's what elucidation is: bringing light, bringing awareness. It's very simple. That doesn't make me anything special. I'm just paying attention. That's all.
Right. And it's not the same can be said about awareness. That word just popped in my head when you mentioned it. I still very clearly remember the moment that I understood that what self-discovery and self-awareness was. It was kind of like a child waking up. It's really cool. So if anybody comes and they watch and then they leave and don't come back, just come back, sit and listen, and just really pick out the words that really stand out to you and explore those words for your own self.
In other words, be an Ursula. Be an Ursula. And start again as a child. Set aside the fact that you have expertise in your field. It's not relevant here, right? Yes, it will have later, but initially set it aside. The setting aside point that Ursula comes, it's so sophisticated, it's exquisite, and we're going to read a bit more on it, right? Because there's a real depth to it that's very, very powerful to understand. Ramsey, just a very important topic here to do there. We need to see photos of those chicks, don't we, Sher?
Yes.
You can't
Absolutely.
be talking about chicks and showing no pictures. Sorry, sorry. No, that doesn't work. You got to show pictures. So good, Ramsey, in a couple of days. I
Better yet,
appreciate
even
that people are
drawings.
busy. I really do. I really do. And that's why I appreciate when people come. I mean, I know this is
Yeah.
especially in America, we're right in the middle of the workday for all time zones. So of course there are less people here, but it's also about the replays. Don't treat the replay as not like alive. React as if it's alive, and we'll respond.
Yes,
Always will respond, right? It's a big deal.
absolutely.
Big deal.
Absolutely.
Please keep
Okay,
going.
so, all right, a few things slipped out initially. They made not one bit of difference. And I realized even if I had engaged all my considerable talents relating to personal power politics, they would have had zero effect on Biella.
Very
It
important point.
probably, yep,
Very important point.
probably it
Yeah.
only would have resulted in her dumbing down what she said to me. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
think of it, right? It's like when the elephant is hanging out with the lions, and the lions are
Yeah.
playing all their dominance games. And elephant is
Yeah.
like, seriously, lion, do I have to explain to you that I'm bigger than you, and that you can't touch me, and that I'm not part of your system? Right? Okay. And then, elephant sort of gives them a little bump, and like, oh, I feel that mass now. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you see this. You see it when a rhinoceros is against an elephant, and the rhinoceros is trying to butt heads with the elephant, right? And it thinks it's all tough and strong. It's got its big horn. All right, the elephant is bigger, but still the rhinoceros, they're very aggressive, right? And they got really bad attitudes. And you see the rhinoceros, they kind of charges the lion and they bump together. And you see the change in the awareness of the rhinoceros. Oh, there's mass here, momentum that
Yeah.
that was not computed before, right?
Yep.
Now the physical feeling of it is like you really literally got pushed back. You just kind of bounced off of this elephant. You're not even in the same category. It's not like another rhino where it's more or less the same. Even if the rhino, no, right? Because that's the only way it had to experience. Okay, they may have gotten in contact with a bigger rhino, but still,
Mhm.
it was the one who was more aggressive that mattered. And didn't matter anything to the elephant. You just bounced. And the one I saw most recently, which is very interesting, the elephant didn't just stop there. It pushed the elephant and the rhino, and it kind of rolled him a little bit, like really tumbled him. And the moment the rhino could find his feet, he just the GTFO
Take
over
off.
there. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm out of here now. Now it's like wake up call. And you could just see how that psychology, that like teenage psychology inside the rhino of, thinking they know what's everything else. And suddenly
Oh
this
yeah.
rude reality came and woke them up. It's too brilliant. It's too brilliant.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Okay,
Oh,
so
okay.
are we
Okay.
down to
All right, Ramsey. Okay, no problem. I mean, I appreciate showing them. If you can't share them, that's fine too. But yeah, share them with me. I like to see them. I like to see them. Please go ahead.
okay,
Please go
so
ahead.
it probably would have okay, in her dumbing down what she said to me. And with that, Ursula let out a merry giggle. I was in a pickle.
Uh-huh.
But I don't understand, interjected Cornelius. Were you in a jam or a pickle? He questioned, sheepishly hanging his head.
Because he knows he's being lame. But
Yeah.
you see now, if we look at this again, capital R reading here, right? Discernment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cornelius knows he's making a lame joke, and he's not
Yeah.
doing it to grab attention. He's doing it because there's a lot going on here, and he needs a pause. He needs a break to
Yep.
assimilate all this. Also, his subconscious is saying, "You." It's philosophy of opposite here
Right. It's
in
like
action, right? Where you see people
you
say the
felt this
things,
way.
right? In other words, were you in a jam or a pickle? He's really talking to himself. Cornelius is
Nice.
in both the jam and the pickle.
Okay.
Big time, big time. But this is too fascinating how this comes out. And if you really pay attention and you truly hear and listen, you'll hear what people say to others is usually to themselves. It's like their subconscious is coming through their mouth and saying, listen to yourself for crikey's sake.
I'm
Because
gonna
it
have to
won't,
remember
the
that.
internal connection isn't happening. Yes. So the
Yep. Yep.
subconscious has to find some other way. And it can't say me, because then you're going to censor it. You're going to just cut it out, right? I mean,
Yep.
he doesn't want to acknowledge this. So because
That's
of the
true.
denial and aversion and everything else, it has to find this way. It's with BMNs. Man, it's like they tell you their whole life story and they don't realize they do. It's
Give them
unbelievable.
enough rope and they'll hang themselves every time.
Right. It's fascinating. It's too fascinating. It's too brilliant too. Let's continue. I love this. I love this. And very keen, Ramsey. You know, I love that you're busy. By the way, I wanted to say, I do appreciate when people do come, especially regularly, like Ramsey, because I
Yeah.
realize it takes energy and effort. You know, it's not a simple thing to do. That's why I appreciate when anybody comes, and why I continue to do this, and why I do it every day. And I'm not here because I'm looking to have people come. If nobody comes, I'm going to do it anyway because I'm putting it out into the universe according to my logic, right? So my goals and motivations aren't the usual, but
Right.
at the same time, when people do come, I'm making an opportunity for them to interaction, because that's bonus to me when people come and interact. It's just like
Mhm.
cherry on top. It's just a little extra bonus on there, right? It's a great
Right.
delight and a joy.
And
So I'm
right,
making it
and with each
available, in other
other.
words. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, for me, I can do 100 and catch one, and that's good odds for me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
This statement
That's
took
good
the
odds.
group a bit by surprise, and then they laughed. Oh, you're all so wonderful. Wonderful, Ursula grinned. She skewered Comelius with a look. He was the only one besides Biella who was not surprised. I suspect Comelius knows exactly what I mean, she said teasingly. Comelius had the good grace to blush ever so slightly. Yes, he stammered slightly, but then he too broke out into a huge laugh. I don't have man voice, Syl.
That's fine.
Yes, he exclaimed. His yes apparently aimed at himself, but he pulled it back in, turning it back to Ursula. This was her show right now. It would be churlish to elaborate on his personal connectivity to the issue. He looked
Yeah.
questioningly at Ursula, not
Yeah.
needing to
Yeah.
say any more.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. All right, so I'm just observing the pickup here. All right, let's just see. They're getting it. Yes, there it all is, waiting for you. All right, very good indeed, very good indeed. All right, sorry, just a side issue here that I have to
It's
pay
okay.
attention to. Yeah,
It happens.
yeah. Well, it's I have a camera monitor that I can see when my deliveries come, so I can connect to them. But I scheduled the pickup for the post office to come and pick up, and they just got lots of attitude, and at the office, and they can't do this
They
and that.
do. Yep.
So,
They offer it, but they give an attitude about it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I can just see in the body language, it's like, but they wanted to make out like, well, they don't come inside the office to pick up packages in the mail room. Which, like, this
Right.
is your job, for crikey's sake. No, the office, the people who work in the office, they got to take it outside to the van, the packages. And the worker makes out like this is office policy. It's not office policy at all. I mean, when you schedule a pickup, you can tell them exactly where to come and pick it up. Like I said, I've got a little canopy, and I got a picnic table under the canopy, and I leave the packages there. The door slam.
Just on that point about the post office, another little known fact that a lot of people, they don't think about or take for granted. I always believed that the post office was a branch of the government. Not. They're contracted.
Right.
The government
Right.
contracts with the U.S. Postal Service.
Interesting. Yeah, they're their own thing, their own peculiar thing.
They are.
Yeah.
They are a for-profit corporation, a
Yeah.
business. And
Correct.
but when I learned that, it's like, but wait a minute, I thought all these years that there
Yeah.
was like, oh, it's a
Yeah.
federal crime to tamper with the mail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a
But
federal crime to tamper with the UPS package as well,
it ought to
because
be.
a UPS package is legally mail.
Yeah.
Same
It
thing.
ought to be. It ought to be.
Right. No, it is. So it's just as illegal. Doesn't matter whether it's mail from the post office or mail from UPS. Yeah. It's quite fascinating, but they have all these privileges. UPS, I mean the post office. I mean not UPS. All these privileges. So it's a fascinating, just big mess. Yeah. Very interesting stuff. Still, though, it's not the post office that the issue here. It's the employee, because they're the same one and they're in the route, and they just make out through just sheer BS that, oh no, this is how it is. And the employees at the office, they don't know any better. They don't question. They don't think for 1 second that somebody would be so brazen as to claim something the very opposite of which is true as fact.
Yeah.
So they're not going to look it up, but you see, I do, and I dealt with this long ago before, and I made an effort to understand all the rules and regulations, right? And it's really wonderful. So now they've made an extra work for them because of their nonsense. So, all right, it works for me. I was making it easy for you, but you want to be difficult? Fine, you made it for yourself.
Yeah.
But normally I go, I'll let them mellow a little bit, and after a week or two of them picking it up, I'll go out and say thank you, and give them a gift or something. And it's always good to be on the good side of your mail carriers, or delivery people. It's and also the other thing too. I'm not doing this because I'm looking to be manipulative. I'm doing it because I'm appreciative. And the logic here is like one of the drivers that came around that I know well, or relatively. I say hello to them and all that, right? We know their name. And he had a trainee, and he said, "Oh, Syl is one of the nice ones." I said, "What do you mean one of the nice ones?" Now I knew what he meant, but I was saying it for the benefit of the trainee. He said, "Well, most people, they just rude to us, and they're negative, and they're just horrible. For no particular good reason except hierarchy and dominance. It's an opportunity to peck on somebody's head and feel better. It's a really sad thing. So appreciate your drivers, because most of the places they go to, people give them crap for no good reason whatsoever. And like this particular, the post office lady, I don't interact with her, but I've seen her. She's become miserable over the years. She's been doing the same route over and over, and nobody ever appreciates her, wants to give her the time of day. Now, of course, after a while, and you pushing that attitude back, then it feeds on itself, right? And the loop intensified. And now the people who did it in the first place unjustly feel justified in doing it. So it's a tricky situation. So I really make an effort to appreciate, and not just drivers, but anybody who's dealing with the public on a regular basis. It's a tough job. It's a really tough job. And when you do shift, it changes for you as well. I have, whenever they come, it's a delight. Those drivers that I now know, they're happy to come here. It's a joy for them. It's a brief few minutes or half a minute, seconds even, but man, it brightens up their day. Now for me, man, how is that not me adding to the moreness of the world? All I'm doing is just saying hello and being friendly. Then it's a joy. It's a joy. Anyway, simple things that have consequences is the point here.
Yes.
Yeah. And like Camelius's comment, it's a simple thing. But you see, this is the interesting thing with Camelius. He blushed because he knows he needs to do more, but he doesn't have the courage to do what Ursula does.
Right.
And what Sher did, it takes courage, Sher, when you're faced with overwhelming ignorance of yourself and you out of your field, you don't know what's going on, right? You completely the noob. It takes courage to persist. One of the advantages of gaming. If you're gonna kick out of a game and stop playing because you're a noob, you're not gonna play any games. Right? So gaming forces us to get past being a noob. Yeah, and in the game, it's like very clear. I mean, you're a noob, you get told you're a noob, and hey, noob, come here, hey, noob, do this, hey, noob, learn to play, L2P, and stuff like this, right? I mean, it's in your face all the time, but it's just this part of the game. Now, for me, I make an effort to stay a noob in the game as long as possible. When I first started playing, the very first game I played, World of Warcraft, huge game at the time. It's still a huge game, but then it was like, they had, when I started playing, between 10 and 12 million subscribers, people giving them money every single month, right? And that would change. By the time I played, there 100 million people had played WoW, even if they were signed up, right? So it's a huge deal. And it's a very sophisticated game, like all these games. It's like to learn to play it at the full level, it's like getting a college degree. But most don't realize, it's just a game, there's simple things. And in that game, though, I made every effort to learn. I went and researched. And because it's such a huge game, you can go and whatever question you had, there would be probably a website devoted to it, right? That's how extensive it was. It was really cool. So I learned everything about that game, but I learned it like proactively. And I searched for the knowledge, and I knew ahead of the time what was going on. But then when I played the next game, I said, no, I'm going to do it differently, because there was a price to that. I lost that noobiness, which means I'm always exploring, and it's like, oh, this is so fresh and new. So in the next games that I played, I let the learning come to me kind of reluctantly, as it were. Right? I learn, and then, okay, I don't learn, but I stay a noob, because it's always fresh. It's always new. You don't get to be sort of, salty or jaded. That doesn't happen. Right? It just stays
Right.
fresh. And I extended that staying fresh as long as possible. And I still play some of those games now, because it's still fresh, right? Because I have that attitude. Yes, I learn the basics that you need to learn, because you don't want to be an ignorant noob. But I can be a
Right.
noob in attitude, not necessarily in skills and in competence, right? So
Right.
it's a to be a life noob. I've got articles about this. It's a very profound thing, and this is the difference here. Ursula knows, at least she's aware or making the effort here. She's also seeing it through the other aspirants in the group. They have that freshness, that noobiness, and Biella sometimes has it also, and that they make an effort to hold on to. It's a very big deal. Brilliant, Ramsey. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Ramsey shared the pictures of the chicks. I got to look real quick. Oh, look at that. Wow, they're so multicolored, Ramsey. We always think of chicks as golden. We don't realize. Look at my talking about the look of superiority and sobriety. It's like, hey, what are you doing with that camera over here? Like, I don't really trust you, and just mind your business here. That's about as close as you're gonna come to my chicks, right? No messing about, Ramsey. We will tolerate no nonsense from you. I love that suspicion also in the eye there, but right, like, not taking too kindly to Ramsey's presence there. Too wonderful.
That's
Oh,
funny.
look, Ramsey's he lives in Eden, I think so. Thank you, Ramsey.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Looks like
Thank
it.
you. That was a real joy, pleasure there. That was too wonderful. That was too wonderful.
Sure looks like it.
All right. So a nuance here, right? The nuance of Camelius's reaction. And
Yes.
we're going to see the peculiarity of Camelius. We've spoken extensively about square circle psychology.
Yes.
Right. Now we are
Yes.
going to see it apply with Camelius.
Yes. Yes.
It's fantastic, but not yet, in the next chapter. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was in a jam. Ursula picked right up. I did not know how to behave for the first time, even since I was a child. I couldn't really do anything without looking stupid. Testify. But
Exactly.
popped out of Nora. Ursula smiled. But indeed, Nora, or more like I was the butt. I was the butt of my own lifelong joke. Internally, whatever I felt I could say or add, which wasn't really anything, would only serve to expose my ignorance. Well, not only my ignorance, but had I made the usual type of conversation where I would draw a reference to my successes without directly naming them, so as to, by implication, boost my status and credibility, I would only have seemed childish.
Right. And that's a huge point here, a huge point. But I have to just say some joy. Ramsey, you just really, you're raising my, look at what Ramsey's sharing. Look at what Ramsey's sharing. Chickies are saying, Ramsey, we want to play. Come, chase us a bit, Ramsey. Come on, chase us, Ramsey. Run, Ramsey, run. Too wonderful. Here we go. This corner safer. No, that corner safer. No, don't believe them. The other corner safer. Oh, I'm going to try it.
Isn't that funny how they do that?
Yeah. Just one has the courage to go, and then the others have. But what's interesting here is there's quite a range of ages, it seems. Or did they just grow at different speeds? It seems like some are bigger than others. It may just be the coloring, Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Different sizes.
Yeah. I mean, they can grow, but typically they don't see that much variation. But he said they 300 new ones. So they must have hatched. Some they don't always hatch exactly the same day. So likely
Yeah.
some started a bit more. And I would imagine that in the other cage, the ones that hatched, that are a different size already, so that you don't get this. Man, thank you, Ramsey. I just love this, this stuff, to see more inside, because obviously when you see the cage, there's another cage, you can see this is an operation. It's not just, his own
Right.
chickens kind of, there's more to it, right? So again, when we learn to pay attention to the moreness, you see, at least there's not necessarily moreness, but it
Yeah.
has benefits in being more observant.
Right,
And notice
right.
things a little bit. And we train our brains to see beyond what you're supposed to see. For one thing is when you watch these videos that everybody's sharing, I mean, I get tons of them in the group. They're inappropriate from the group, but it's some, they're watching, I don't know, usually some industrial thing or some joke thing that people are playing or some scandal or whatever. But say, hey, who took that video?
Yeah.
We watch videos and we just completely forget. We just assume it's legit what's there. But if you say, oh, but hang on, there's a camera person here. Oh, now it changes the whole deal, right? We tend to just, in our psychologies, we remove the camera person as being present. We get right in there and we feel like we're the only one and the subjects of the scene. We forget there's a
Right.
cameraman. But
Right.
again, when you can't, right? It's a fact of the reality, unless it was captured on CCTV or something, right? Yeah, they grow in different speeds, but every 2 months we get around 300 newly hatched to keep the farm going. Ah, very cool,
That's
very cool,
wild.
Ramsey. Very cool, very cool. Yeah.
Wild.
So, if you think about it, perspective shifting. I mean, Ramsey's, he makes this spicy, chili spiced pizza sauce. Yeah. What's it called again, Ramsey? I'm sorry if I forget. And it's very cool. It's just a new, different thing, and they make with their own products, and eggs is a big part of it, and it's all in there. So, but also obviously, I'm assuming because they have the hatchings, I mean, those end up in the cook pot at some point. But you might say, "Oh, that's horrible, Ramsey." But a perspective shift. If Ramsey didn't do this, then those chicks would never have a life at all. Doesn't matter they have a brief life, they have a life. Also, it's a life of purpose.
Yeah.
How many of us said, I would love to have a life that has a profound, deep, meaningful purpose? To be a chick in a chick farm like that and grow up and be eaten, this is a life of purpose. You're providing nourishment and health and, food and sustenance to people. You're making their lives happy. They see different psychology. You might come across a psychology that says this is fantastic, and they may go through repeated lives being chickens because they feel valuable, they feel useful, and having life is a lot better than having no life. My point is not that it is so. It's about alternative paradigms, thinking differently. It could be so. It
Yes.
could be so. I'm not saying it is. It could be. Yes. And
Mhm.
it's just a way of shifting your brain to say, oh, we were talking about relabeling, perspective shifting, in other words, relabeling,
Yeah.
perspective shifting, same thing. And looking at more, organic ones. Oh, you only sell the eggs. Oh, wonderful. What happens to the chicks, Ramsey? Do they just die of old age?
No, they grow up, make more chicks.
Yeah. Well, I'm just asking because if they
Mhm.
do, that means his operation has been going for a good long time already. If you're cycling the 300 new chicks with 300 ones that die, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Great Munch, that was the name brand. Great Munch. It was such a cool name. Great Munch.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just too fantastic, really excellent. Yeah, for the brand, the overall brand. So it's Great Munch,
Right.
spicy chili or chili pizza sauce, and just it's a great idea to make chili pizza sauce. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I
It
personally am
is.
not a fan of chili, but I think it's a genius idea. It's very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Is that yours? Yeah. Well, it sounded like a boat, the horn on a boat, like a
Oh,
foghorn
no,
type.
my phone is ringing, but I don't know how
Yeah.
you're hearing it because
It's the
it's,
vibrate that I'm hearing.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it would have to be. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. I just love, hearing more and getting that moreness in things. And again, it's just a habit. You just have to train the brain. Yeah. All right. So Ursula says,
Where?
Oh, did we read this already?
Let me see. I went all the way down to, okay, let me see. Internally, whatever I felt I could say or add, which wasn't really anything, would only serve to expose my ignorance. Well, not only my ignorance, but I had made the usual types of conversation where I would draw reference to my successes without directly naming them, so as to, by implication, boost my status and credibility. I would only have seemed childish.
And this is very important. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Such has no currency here, or certainly doesn't with Biella. Yes, she appreciates my abilities and accomplishments, but ego and status is a funny thing. It's not something we possess solely as individuals. A myth I discovered here. Okay, that one I don't understand.
Wow, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that because I want to go just a little bit there about the childish. If we go up to Capitol Hill, right, and we hang out there with all the senators and representatives, and they all going about their business, doing their thing, and it's all very profoundly serious. But then, you know, like Ursula says, you take all their doings and all that scheming and plotting and, you know, posturing and what all this, right? And you go and you hang out with Biella, it suddenly seems childish.
Yeah.
Yeah. The context.
Okay.
So we must be very, very careful to understand importance and to say, is it really important or is it only
Put it into
contextually
context.
important?
Yeah,
Right, because
put it all
in
into
Capitol
context.
Hill, it's all, you know, all that part. I give a press conference and, you know, I give an interview and all this. It's all contextually important, but does it really matter in the end? No, it doesn't matter at all. In Biella's world, it's kind of childish, right?
Right.
This all this posturing and scheming and plotting and all. Yes, what you're doing does matter to the world, but you know, it can be done a lot simpler if you really were actually had the intent to simply administer and do stuff. Now it would be admin, not politics. Yeah.
Right.
So politics is politics because of the PPP stuff that comes in. Yeah. And like P, it belongs somewhere else. Right. All right. But ego and status is a funny thing. It's a very sophisticated point from Ursula here. And it's a new awareness for her. It's not something we possess solely as individuals. A myth I discovered here. Right. So now she's saying, right, obviously, she's saying ego and status. We assume we've come to the default that my ego, my status is me and it's something I do and it's all dependent on me. But then she makes the very obvious point coming next here. So let's hear her explanation.
Okay. Ego status, it's a relationship, always relevant and associated to others. But it only works out and connects and makes sense in its relative way when the others are engaged in the same dance. Interacting with someone to whom this is completely irrelevant is daunting.
Right there. That's her point. She's saying that we think ego is only on its own. But no, think about it. Right? If you interacting with
activate it.
Exactly, because like with Biella, she doesn't relate to ego at all, and status it's not even part of her vocabulary or thinking. I mean, she understands the concepts and know what they are, but she's sophisticated enough and conscious and deliberate enough to not let that come into her awareness. She's able to de-emphasize it, right? So it's not a factor, right? Because she's been an in other words, right? Psychologically. So now when Ursula comes and says, whatever she's going to say in the context of ego, if Biella's not playing the game, if she's saying, well, you know, like I'm the youngest ever leader or about to be leader, I will be, and like, well, so what? You know, it's like, okay, so the youngest ever nincompoop, how is that an accomplishment? You see, I mean, she wouldn't say it in that way, but, you know, by implication to use as example. So it takes two to play that game. The other person has to say, oh, yeah, wow, that's really cool, wonderful. And then you get the feedback, you get the payoff, right? It's a relationship, in other words. And same with status. You actually, in status, you looking to be really important, but you don't realize that in your status of importance, you're actually dependent on others.
How to start
you're doing it to have security, to, oh, look how important I am, I'm the boss of the world. But in the same vein, you become dependent. And this is the thing that dictators come to realize, and why you see them start to suppress and be, because they get more and more insecure. They realize that they are vulnerable and dependent, and they can't handle it. And they end up. Say again?
It's it. It's how to starve a narcissist.
Exactly. It's why you have to starve them. Precisely.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
absolutely key. It's absolutely key. So this idea that it's something that's yours and yours alone, it's just a myth. It's just a myth. It's not actually
that's
true.
interesting. That's
Yeah,
fascinating, actually. I never thought
it
about
is.
that.
It
So,
is. It's a huge point. It's one of those that are kind of a duh when you think about it, but it's not an easy duh to come to on its own accord. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Which is
Well,
why we're doing what we're doing and practicing the skill of looking
yeah.
further. Yeah.
So I had the great fortune to realize this and to keep my mouth shut, darling, as much as possible. Had
Yeah.
I not realized this, I would have made a very great fool of myself indeed. Ursula looked at Nora, adding, and before you can add another but, they all laughed, Nora acknowledging with her laughter that it had been about to emerge. It mattered to me, Nora, in my system. Relative to what I encountered here, I realized it was silly to feel that way. But habit, not only habit in this case, but also deliberate intent to maintain and live and use that system, those are hard to let go.
And
Oh, it all
again,
is.
she could have given Camelius a look there,
But
but
didn't.
didn't, because she's is cautious here. She realizes she doesn't have the license yet to do that with Camelius. She doesn't know him well enough, and this
Right.
is his own stew that he has to cook in.
Yes.
It's not her business, you know. Biella later is going to step in there because she does develop somewhat of a relationship, and also because she is in the task that she's at, you know, not only to show what the new nobility are,
Hmm.
and they get involved when they get pulled in by the universe. So she doesn't really have much of
Right.
a choice, but she also does it as a bit of a personal predilection because she does like Camelius very much, even
Hmm.
though, you know, he gets into the squamia, and so she really makes every effort she can to help him in a big way.
Yeah.
We're gonna see to burst
I
that
think this is
bubble.
a good stopping point, at
Yes,
least for
yes,
me.
yes. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect. I love this. So it's a really cool point also to
Yes.
realize that we can pursue what we perceive or believe to be strength and security, as
Hmm.
in having a dominant ego and having dominant status. But actually, the more you perceive it, the more vulnerable you become.
That is a big one. And that
It's huge.
I
It's huge. It's huge.
yeah, that's a big one to land
It's
on.
so huge.
Okay.
The nuance, I just love it. It's so brilliant. You know, that sophistication of Ursula's. It's such a casual little throwaway line, right? That, I mean, if you were
Yeah.
reading it as a regular story, you know, oh, that's kind of interesting, and just carry on reading. But when we stop on it and we realize, holy crap, this actually changes my reality.
Yeah, that's why I
Yeah.
said this is a good place to stop.
Yes. Yes, I love it. I absolutely love it. This is too cool. And I loved your reading and love when you are here and interact. And I'll say thank you on behalf of Bina, and missed you, Bina. And also a last but
Yeah.
very important shout out. Norma's not here today because she's out celebrating her birthday. So
Oh,
happy
well, happy birthday,
birthday,
Miss
beautiful,
Nora.
magical Miss Nora. Yes, as Sher says, Miss Nora is just too wonderful and delightful. You know, we really love Norma,
Wonderful.
and it's just I just love that you are celebrating a birthday,
Yeah.
and it's Norma has celebrated a great many birthdays, so celebrating birthdays is a very big deal for Norma, and more so
Oh,
than for most
wonderful.
of us. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. It's too cool. It's too cool. She's out with her daughters, so I love it. I love it.
Oh,
So
fun.
happy birthday, beautiful Norma. And we'll see you tomorrow or later. So bye bye, bye bye. Bye bye,
Okay.
everybody. Bye bye, Ramsey. And bye bye, Christine. So
Bye-bye,
pleased that you
everybody.
came. Wonderful. Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. And meeting
Bye.
for all.